Hello everyone and welcome to another riveting edition of Books and Banter, your Medina Library's video blog as to what the experts are reading. So we're going to do another kind of a blurb edition today. The theme today is gritty, and I have two books here, Dare Me by Megan Abbott and Peter de Jong's Buried on Avenue B, that are both gritty for different reasons. It's just like that, it's in your teeth type of gritty. It's like this weird goopy stuff I had to put on Chia Abe's head, that type of gritty. So let me see if I can expound upon that. We're going to start with Dare Me by Megan Abbott, who's authored some books before. She's been around the block a couple times. This is a very character-driven book. It's about relationships. It's about youth and growing up. It's a true story. There's not a lot of mystery. There's not a lot of the thriller element or anything like that. It's just a really well-written book. At the heart of it, you have you have a cheerleading group. High school cheerleaders. You have Beth and Addie. Beth is kind of that dominating cheerleader captain. She's kind of the mean girl. This is kind of like the movie Mean Girls in a book, I guess. You have Addie, who's much more nicer, I guess, a little more docile. Always kind of the lieutenant to Beth. So the book, at its essence, is kind of their relationship and how it's grown over the years. And you get some backstory and things like that. But what really happens is when the new coach comes aboard, and she kind of befriends Addie in a way that kind of ticks Beth off a little bit. So then you get that conflict. And then there's a murder, and the police kind of turn their attention to the cheerleading squad and what goes on there. And that's where the grit comes in. It gets kind of like mean and just the characters. It's hard for me to relate to. First of all, because it's high school cheerleaders, which obviously I never was one. The other part is that the parents, there's like no parent involvement, and these kids are out drinking and smoking with the coach and in the locker room and taking different kinds of pills. It's really harsh. It's a really harsh look at, I guess, a reality that's out there that I've just never experienced before. So to me, that was a little different. That's where the grit comes in. I wasn't super thrilled with the book. It's not that it's not well written. It's just I couldn't kind of identify with some of the characters. So that might be a problem for some of you out there. I'm going to pair this with a cheap Chardonnay. Get your Vandage, get your Turning Leaf. Nothing real super great out there. It's just a little bit, it's kind of cheap and a little dirty and things like that. So that's Dare Me. So to contrast that, Peter de Jong, who you may know, and you may know out there as one of those authors that writes with James Patterson. I think he has 2 books out there. I think this is his first solo outing. The grittiness from this comes from really the setting. The setting is New York City. It's Darlene O'Hare is a detective in New York, and she had her first son at 15, she's named him Axl Rose O'Hare. So obviously he's a aspiring rock star. But compared to Dare Me, where it's really the characters and whatnot, this really relies on that New York City setting. At the heart of this, there's a care worker comes to Darlene and says an elderly gentleman in her care has claimed that he murdered someone 17 years ago. It's one of those things where he's on his deathbed and he wants to clear his conscience and things like that. Darlene kind of takes it with a grain of salt because she's, it's just that New York tough attitude, like what's really going on here. But the elderly patient says that he murdered 17 years ago, like a large male, and when they go to actually dig up, they find a small child buried there with a lot of different kind of artifacts and things around him. So that starts driving the story. It takes it down to the rural South, and it involves like the gypsy culture, which I kind of found very interesting. My only issue with this book is all the characters are not stock characters, but everyone is like really quirky. It makes them memorable, which is kind of cool. But it's so much so it gets stereotypical. Like you don't meet anyone that's normal at all. They're just all kind of quirky and out there, and it gets kind of hard to relate to some of the characters. But I do like the settings. I like the dialogue. It just makes you feel like you're there. You're kind of following Darlene and her various partners around, talking to these criminals and semi-criminals, and maybe they're criminals and all these kind of goofballs out there. So it's very kind of a cool concept. Pair this with a Malbec. Now you're gonna have to reach up high for this one. Catina Zapata might charge you $17, $18, but it's that earthiness. If you like Cabernet Sauvignons, if you haven't tried Malbecs, especially from Argentina, try one of these. Not as fruity, but it's got that dry kind of like tomatoes and mushrooms and kind of earthiness, kind of again that little grit there. So that's the grittiness for today. A couple other books in my attempt to find odd books to bring to your attention. Pig, Memoirs of the Learned Pig, Memoirs of Toby the Learned Pig. I started reading this. I got to be honest. I got about 30 pages into it, and I was just done with it. It's written by, it says edited, but it's really written by Russell Potter. It's English, so it's kind of dry. It's got that dry English humor to it. It's supposed to be set in 1781, so the writing and the dialogue is set that way. At the heart of it, it's Toby becomes a talking mathematical genius pig, I guess, that starts touring around Europe. I didn't even get to the part where he starts talking. It was just too much. I just could not get into it. I'm going to pair this as a cheap pairing. I'm going to pair this with Pinot Noir because it's pig. Not that you can't have anything else with pork, a light Malbec, an Ohio Cabernet Franc, maybe even a Gewürztraminer. But if you're going to read this, just want you to know what you're in for. Get yourself a cheap Pinot Noir. Arrogant Frog, down the bottom shelf. Talked about bottom shelf last episode. It's a French one, but you get the gist of it. Final book, just wanted to bring up Other Side of Hell, Bob Adamov, local author. Nice end of the summer read. Bob Adamov's a local guy, Kent State graduate, lives in Worcester, a lot of time up in Put-in-Bay. Just a fun book. This is in his series. Also comes with this little fun CD. Mike Mad Dog Adams, who's a performer, performs at, I believe, the Roundhouse, usually up in Put-in-Bay. And pair this, Put-in-Bay Brewery's Watermelon Wheat. Wonderful beer if you can get a hold of that. Nice little end of the summer read for you. A couple blurbs here. September 15th coming up on Saturday. We have the Big Truck program at the Buckeye Library. Still tickets available. Terry Pluto's going to be at the Weymouth Country Club on September 18th. It's a library event. I'm sure with the Browns kicking off this Sunday, Terry's going to have a lot of interesting comments, so you can still purchase tickets for that. And September 22nd, we have our Storytellers Festival here in Medina. That's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining us again. Let me know any thoughts, any comments you have, and we'll see you around the library.